Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Hey, welcome back, everyone. We have talked before about how important having a great bookkeeper, accountant at your business is critical. Why even be in business if you're not taking care of the back end, or at least have somebody qualified taking care of the financial end? You're making money, bringing money in, spending money on supplies, but then not accounting for it. What a mess. You could be behind in the red and not even know it. That's one aspect. The other important part of it is the record keeping organized financial records of your business. One part of bookkeeping that we're going to dig into today with somebody who knows all about that. She works with many different companies. Her company is called ETCH, and she's Yakima Jones, and she's back with us. Welcome. How are you?
I am well, Steve. Thank you so much for having me again.
I struggle with this financial record keeping.
Mhm.
And that came up when I cleaned my office about 4 months ago. And I had all this paperwork, and I'm trying to decide, what do I do with all this? Do I keep it? How long do I keep it? I mean, those are just starting points there, which I'd love to get into because I think I might represent other people wondering about that stuff.
Yeah.
But when it comes to making sure that you have organized financial records, what does that all entail?
So, documentation retention is the first step, I would say, especially when you're a business owner. A lot of business owners don't know, as you said, what to keep. Like, do I need to keep the $5 that I filled up in gasoline versus the $7,000 I spent on a computer, laptop, and peripherals? You have to kind of sit down with your bookkeeper, kind of go over some of the requirements. There are some regulatory requirements around it. The IRS has a pretty good start for trying to help you identify what records you should be keeping based off their value. And then that way you'll know if you go and spend money. The $5 receipt for gas is great, but the $7,000 for peripherals and computers and laptops is a little bit more party, and they definitely want to make sure you have records for that.
Hmm. It's a running joke when anybody ever gets into my car because I call it my mobile file cabinet. So inside of the air vents, I keep the gas receipts and some of the other receipts until I get a little stack of them, and then I bring them into the office. I put them in a manila envelope that has the year date, and I just go in there. Um, am I doing the right thing? At least trying.
Trying is always good. I'd rather have too many documents and too much information
Yeah.
than not enough. If you're gonna bounce it up against, if you're using your car, like say if you are a Uber or a Lyft
Mm.
contractor, you need that information. You need that to bounce up against maybe your mileage, all your expenses. You want to make sure you're capturing all that. So depending on how you use your vehicle, that may be very important. So again, I'd rather have too much information than not enough.
So this is a big question, and I've heard it from the answers in different ways. Nowadays, when you keep receipts, like your gas receipts, great example there, that the IRS doesn't care about your credit card receipts or statements. They want the hard receipts. So if you ever get audited, you can pretty much throw your credit card statements away. They don't really care. It's the hard receipt. Is that true?
It can be. It depends because see, your credit card statement only gives them so much information. Your credit card statement is going to say, maybe the name of the gas station was something that's kind of nebulous, CR4 brick, and they don't know what that is, but the receipt does because it shows CR4 brick was gas and how much you got per gallon. It's more detailed. So that's why I say there's great software that lets you do receipt capture that can actually extract that information off of the receipt to help you with organizing. So you don't have to have in your glove compartment the little stack of receipts. You can just do that expense capture, put it on that app or software, and then just you're done with it. And it can help bookkeepers like me keep track of everything that you're spending to support when we see your statement come through and it says, 1, 2, 3, 4 brick, whatever, we'll know it goes with that item.
Yeah, you bring up a valid point because when I look at my credit card receipt or statement, a lot of times I'm like, what is that? Oh, I got gas because it doesn't say the ABC gas station. It's
Right.
some weird name. And the only reason I know that I got gas is I don't even check the date. I look at the amount. And
Hmm.
typically my fill up is about 50 something bucks at this time. So it's like, oh, that was gas. Okay.
Yes,
Yeah, and it doesn't tell you how much you got. It could be anything to an IRS auditor. They would have no idea of what it is. So, okay.
exactly.
Point
Exactly. And
uh,
having been a former auditor, I
oh,
always like to see the receipts.
oh, oh, we have royalty with us today.
Not for the IRS,
Oh,
but I totally understand their world. But I was an auditor, a vice president of auditing, as a matter of fact, for over 15 and a half years. So I definitely always wanted to see the physical document, even if I could see the system reports or a statement, just to match it and make sure everything lined up. Mhm.
as your job as an auditor all those years, what did you do? Basically, what was your job?
So I was actually auditing and leading audit teams in the casino gaming industry. So got a lot of opportunity to work with the regulators to see how they saw things. So if you think about as we're talking about it, the IRS, they want the detail. So I wanted to make sure that our internal clients had the detail for when the state regulators came in or the federal regulators came in. So I wanted to see all of the detailed information that they saw before the regulators, because if there was a problem, I want to sound the alarm before we ever got to that point. So that the regulators can be like clean bill of health, which is the same thing as what a bookkeeper does. I want to sound the alarm to my clients before you get to the IRS or other regulators that may be looking at, or your banker or lender. I want to be able to do that for you. So a lot of my work was literally looking at the operations of the casino gaming industry, and then saying, hey, are you following the regulations as you are required to do by the state, the federal government, or even your own internal controls? Are you doing what you said you would do? And where they weren't, point those out and let's talk about how we can remediate that, correct it, etc.
How about compliance when it comes to the legal aspect, the tax aspect? What can you share with us on that?
So, tax compliance and legal regulatory compliance is always something that, business owners really, really kind of get tripped up about a lot. You're just starting a business. Of course, you need to probably set up and file something with the state, whatever your entity is, even if you're a sole proprietor, it behooves you to actually go ahead and let the state know you're operating a business, because everybody kind of wants, if you will, their cut of the pie. And so you want to make sure that you're on good standing with the state that you're operating in. And then whatever your business is, that you are really aware of what regulations apply to you. What applies to someone that's in retail, the same regulations for that state won't apply to someone that might be in food service. So you really kind of need to understand what are the laws in your state for your business type, sales and use tax, sales tax, if anything like that, payroll taxes, any specialized requirements of filing, or, anything with the state. You want to make sure you have a good understanding of when due dates are, when it's needed, how often, quarterly, semi-annually, monthly, whatever the case may be, so that you stay compliant. Because when you don't, you run the risk of having, your business, it's called like being hit with a not in good standing designation. And you don't want that, because that means when you try to go out and maybe get loans or anything like that, those entities are going to look to see, are you okay? Are your credentials in place for the state? And so you really want to make sure that you're just being compliant for your type of entity, across the board for your state and your federal requirements.
Not in good standing.
Yes.
Okay, that sounds scary.
Yes.
Where would that be listed? Where
So
would somebody go to find that?
absolutely. So usually what happens is, in most states, you would file, and let's say you're an LLC. So I'm an LLC. and every year I need to recertify my business. It's very simple. It takes 5 minutes maybe, where you answer a few questions, you tell the state, yes, I'm still in business. And they say, okay, fine, you are, if you will, register in the Commonwealth of Virginia or whatever state you're in, and you're able to do business. We know of this entity, they are allowed to do business, conduct business here, etc. If someone has a problem with, what I do as a business, they can, appeal to the state and say, hey, I did business with ETCH and I didn't feel this was on the up and up, letting you know. And they can come back and say, we heard a complaint about you, etc. Secondarily, with the state, when you don't keep up that registration, if you will, you don't maintain it, you don't continue to tell them, I'm operating a business, they're either going to say either you dissolve your company, or, if you don't file and let us know you're still in business, you shouldn't really continue to do business here because we're saying you're not registered and you're not in good standing with us. So you want to make sure that you keep up all of your registrations with each state that you're in or Commonwealth that you're in, and that they know you're operating a business. Just, remaining transparent, being on the up and up.
Where would you, well, first of all, is that the LLC registration? If you're an LLC, for example, I believe I paid like $9 or something to renew it. So that's the same thing.
Yeah, you go on the state site. Most states have some type of commerce site where you can actually go up there and see what businesses are registered, if you will, with the state. And if you don't see them on there as registered, you probably want to ask some different questions. I mean, a lot of people say, well, hell, I'm just sole proprietor, so I'm okay. And I'm like, well, yeah, that's fine. But still, you want to make sure that someone else knows you're in business. That's how you avoid potentially a lot of maybe nebulous things that could happen along the way for people who just decide I'm in business, but they don't let the state know that they're operating.
So I just got an email.
Okay.
And this is in regard to this kind of ties in a little bit to what we're talking about, but literally just got it. From the IRS for tax liability.
Mhm.
And apparently my quarterly taxes, I'm guessing, got to them too late. So I have a $50 balance due. I'm pretty sure that it was at the very minimum sent on the date due, which I forget. I think that one is also in April, just like tax returns are due. Am I remembering correctly? June 15th is another one.
Yeah, so it's usually quarterly, like March and June, and so it's usually a quarterly date for business taxes. But here's the thing: when you have a really good bookkeeper, they can help you keep track of when that liability is due, because inside the software there's a liability, record that'll help you get notified that this is coming due, and you can see when you paid it versus when it was actually due. Because usually the tax authority will say, hey, right in the software, it's due on this date, and you can see when the payment went. And if you think I paid it on time, you have your software to show it, then you're good to go. Otherwise, you're like, okay, just pay the $50 fee for being late, the penalty for being late, and go for it, from there. And then make sure next time, I don't want to pay the extra $50, because $50 times
It adds up.
late adds up. Yeah.
Yeah. And, again, that was physically mailed. And, I'm thinking now I rely on the U.S. Postal Service, which
Yeah.
isn't
Yeah.
perfect. So,
Yeah.
maybe it didn't get postmarked that night. And if that's the case, or maybe got lost, I don't know. I have to look deeper into that. But literally, I'm not even kidding. Just got that.
That's perfect.
And I sent it out myself, so I know
Okay.
it was sent. But if I had a bookkeeper handling it that day, then it would have been done maybe electronically or through the software. The
Correct.
software you mentioned, is that QuickBooks would do that as well or no?
Yes, QuickBooks Online can help you keep track of your taxes. And we're talking about all your taxes, whether it's sales taxes, payroll taxes, any quarterly taxes that are due to the IRS or your state, anything that's due, the software will assist us in keeping everything a good reminder and letting us know. We have ways of putting reminders out there for our clients So if they know if they want us to pay it, just let us know and we'll take care of it. So offer those services as well. Absolutely.
Let's talk about some of the things that can happen if you don't have somebody qualified looking over your books, in terms
Uh,
of
yeah,
financial reporting
yeah.
and in management of records and things. What can go wrong there?
So even in my years as an auditor, it's what we call a misstatement of your financials, which as an auditor, it's like one of those things that, management and operations would just cringe at because what you've told any of your stakeholders, whether it's your partners or your family, because they're stakeholders, you're in your own business, it's just you. We were depending on this, $20,000 client, and we were betting on this. We are going to go on vacation, and that didn't happen because you booked it too soon or you forgot, whatever may have happened. That misstatement, that mismanagement, you not knowing who owes you or who you owe, and being able to record it and capture it in a timely manner, it makes things unbalanced, and it can cause a lot of problems down the line. If you don't know who you owe, you may not have enough money coming in to satisfy who you owe, your vendors, and then you can, impact those relationships. Or if you're not able to, receive money that's coming due to you, again, I was going to take the family on vacation, but I couldn't because I didn't get that, that contract in. They didn't pay me on time for whatever reason. And I didn't look at my cash flow as, succinctly as I should have. And therefore, we're going to have to postpone the vacation, family, or we can't buy this new item that we need for, our product line or whatever it may be. And not only that, if you've taken those financials and say you've used it to get a loan, or you used it to figure out if you have a partner and you guys have an agreement to do a share of profitability, and you paid out this money based off inaccurate numbers, as you can see, it's kind of like in your personal life. If you bounce a check, you don't quite keep track of your bank statements. It's the same thing in business. You're not quite keeping track of your financials, and therefore things aren't lining up right. And now you're sweating because you have to really try to get your financial house in order again. And the regulatory issues can be few and or many. It just depends on how bad it is. You see a lot of it in the news sometimes where it's just things weren't captured, and it can cause ripple effects across the business, definitely.
Um, that all being said, let's say somebody wants to get financing. What's poor bookkeeping practices? What are those practices that could prevent you if it's not done right?
Definitely being able to show a solid and consistent stream of income, not capturing it in a timely manner, inflating it. Again, accounts receivable is a double-edged sword. You definitely want to make sure you're capturing your accounts receivables, but you don't want to make sure you're relying on like a single vendor for like the bulk of your income. Because if that vendor, again, something happens with the relationship, and you haven't quite captured everything that's due to you, or it takes a long time for you to get paid, but you're using that to, pay back a lender, that's problematic. And lenders are going to drill down into that. They want to see where your income is coming from. So definitely making sure you have a good solid stream of income, and that your expenses, they're controlled. They're more fixed than varied, because that will definitely help them to understand, what's left over after all is paid for. What kind of revenue are you bringing in versus what's your net income when you're all said and done. So definitely being able to show those 2 points. What am I getting in? What's going out the door? And gives the lender a little bit more understanding of how risky you are as a business owner or as a business.
Not being familiar with the process. So you're going for some kind of a loan, looking for financing. How deep do they go? Do they actually ask for, hey, can we see your QuickBooks file? Would they go that deep?
My clients have definitely said, hey, I'm looking to get a line of credit. Can you produce a P&L for me? I mean, like I get an email and it's like, can you produce a P&L on me? And I just I need to ask, do you want the cash or accrual basis? Which side, depending on my client. And that's what I provide to them so that the banker will know where they stand. If they want more, again, QuickBooks allows you to drill down into those numbers. So it'll let you see the revenue stream, where all did it come from. If you click on it, it'll show you every client that made up that solid number on the profit statement. If you hit the balance sheet and you see the accounts receivable, you can click on it in QuickBooks and it'll drill down and see, is that one client or does this person who's asking me for a loan have many clients? They want a robust financial statement. So absolutely, if they need to see that detail, I can provide that for them. They can see that. Sometimes they ask.
Well, didn't know that. So, I mean, there's all more reason to make sure that you have somebody qualified keeping tabs on everything because,
Absolutely.
how are you going to pivot at that last minute,
Yes.
clean the books?
Yes.
Not going to work in your favor in that way.
Yes.
How about some final thoughts here in terms of regulations or just financial record keeping in general that we should be mindful of?
I would say that any business owner, you get into business for a dream that you have, whether it's a personal dream, a family dream, carrying on a legacy, whatever the case may be. You get into business to build something. You don't get into business necessarily to take care of the books. So I'd say hire you a bookkeeper, get in tuned with them, let them understand your vision for your business and then grow with them and know that the questions that a good bookkeeper is asking is going to be to help you reach your goals. It really is. Our focus is to help you achieve your goals, meet your financial obligations, to be able to show you how well you're doing, show you those trends, and let you do what you do, which is run your business, grow your business. We take care of your books for you so that you can keep on doing just that.
It is the last thing that I personally want to do. Some people get into it, even though they're handling this part of the business, the financial end, they get excited about. That is completely not me. And I remember I have a marketing company, right? So years ago when I first started, I was creating my own invoices on Word.
Remember those days. I remember those days.
I love your face.
I remember those days. Nice little template.
Yeah. And then it just got out of control. And what is going on? And that was, when Word was, not as even advanced as it is now. It's for letter writing. It's not for bookkeeping purposes. But that being said, you can't do it all. And I truly believe, after seeing it from many different sides, that the right bookkeeper, the right accountant team,
yes,
is your foundation. And you talk about building a business. You can't build a business without a foundation, and that's the financial foundation.
absolutely.
Aside from your purpose in life and your joy of whatever you do, you're doing it to make money.
Yes,
It's not a charity. And even charities generate revenue and need bookkeepers too.
yes, they do. Yes,
It's all of that. So do it right. What's your website, Yakima?
it is ETCH Management LLC.com. So ETCH Management LLC.com.
And I have to imagine, with the years of experience that you have behind you and your team, a consult call, you'll know right away, asking just a few questions, what somebody typically is looking for, right?
Absolutely. 15 minutes and we'll be simpatico, I promise.
Thanks for all the details. Thanks for the clarification on things. I would love to chat more, but I have to go write a check for $50 to the IRS.
I understand, Steve.
Yeah.
I understand.
Somebody else should be doing that, not me.
Yes.
But,
Bookkeeper.
well, yes. First of all, I shouldn't have to write it in the first place. That's where it goes.
Yes.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you as well for having me. I enjoyed it.
Thanks. We'll be right.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.